Hey, what's up guys? I'm back with another video, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to build this fully responsive React application. Basically it's like a space travel website for the near future here. So we have, if you notice here, a full screen video background hero here. So that is one component. Then we go down here, we also have our footer, but we're using React Router DOM version 6. It just came out several weeks ago. I already did one video on it, and I'll put a link to that down in the description below. But here we have a few different pages. We have, so this is just like a home page here. Then we have a pricing route or pricing page. And it has like some little cool cards here. And this hero banner, you'll notice, is on all the pages. And what we do is the same component, and we're just passing in props, which is just basically like some dynamic data that we're just passing through. So we can pass in pricing, training here, and then same with contact. And here's our training here. Have some images down here, real basic, but I just want to show you how to do a few things here. Same with the contact form, and it is fully responsive, as you can tell. I know my picture might be down here at the bottom somewhere, but here we are. We also have the navbar. We're using a useState hook for our navbar, and I'll show you how to do that as well. And of course, all of these links are working properly. So if you're ready to build this, you can follow along from the beginning. Let's get started. Okay, I'm starting off in VS Code. I'm using a blank code editor here. Nothing's loaded. I'm going to press the Control Backtick button to open up the terminal here. I'm going to change the directory to the desktop, and then let's create our React app. So I'm going to type npx create-react-app, and I'm going to name my file glx-travel. Okay, so that's what I'm going to call my React app. This will only take a moment here. All right, it says happy hacking. That means we are ready to go. I'm going to drag over my folder that we just created. And to get started, I'm going to go ahead and clean up some things that we're not going to be using, just to make it a little bit easier to follow. This app.css, we don't need that. We don't need the app.test, the logo, these report web files, or these setup tests. Let's go ahead and get rid of all those. We're just going to be using the index.css file, and really we're going to be creating components, and we'll just style each individual component. So we would get some errors right now if we tried to start our server. So let's go ahead and fix those. We're going to delete that, delete these web vitals, and in our app.js, we can replace this with just import React from React. And down here, we can get rid of all this code in here. Now, before starting our development server, we are going to use two packages in this tutorial. So I'm going to press the Control Backtick button. We can go ahead and install these packages. We're going to use the React icons. So type npm I react-icons. If you're using Yarn, that's fine as well, but I'm going to be using npm. So npm I react-icons --save. And our other package is going to be the React Router DOM, and we're using version 6. I did a video on this not too long ago. I can put a link down in the description below, but so React Router DOM version 6 just came out probably several weeks ago. So I'm going to be using that. Let's see, React Router DOM, and then just type @v6. We'll get the version 6 here installed. And already looks good. Let's just make sure. There's React Router DOM, and those are our React icons right there. So the way we're going to structure, let's go ahead and get everything structured correctly here. We're going to have we're going to be working under the source folder here. And underneath in this source folder, I'm going to have an assets folder. And this is where our images are going to live. And we're also going to have a components folder. And of course, we're going to have a routes folder. And these are where our individual pages are going to live. So let's go ahead and let's create our first page, kind of like how I did over here. I'll reference back over here. So this is kind of like our landing page here. It's containing a navbar, this kind of video header here, and then a footer, okay? And then we have a pricing page, which I included the navbar, a little hero picture here that we're using props to pass in some data, and a pricing component, and a footer, and then with the training, kind of same thing, using the props so we can use the same image, the same component, and a training tab here, and then also the contact. So the way I'm going to do this many different ways. And while I was building the project, I initially was going to do it a little bit differently. But I had kind of like a home page, and then I had individual pages for each one. So I'll show you what I mean right here. I'm going to go ahead and create a functional component called home.js. And I'm using extension, to kind of, let's see here. I think it's ES7. Yes, ES7 React Redux to kind of get some shortcuts while you're creating your components here. I just have to type RAFCE, and it's going to generate an arrow function component and export it at the bottom. Pull it back open. So in here, in my home component, this is kind of where that home page is gonna live. Okay, so we haven't made any components yet, and that's okay. Let's go ahead and start with we'll start with our index.css file. Kind of clean this up just a tad. So I want to add a few things here. We're going to do just to apply to all box sizing. We want to put border box, and I want to take away any of this margin and padding here. I do these on almost most projects here, and also for the body. I'm just going to set a background of black here, okay? And then let's get rid of this list style type, and also all this ugly link text decoration. And I'm going to go ahead and put my buttons in here as well. It's kind of like a global style sheet here. You can kind of think of it that way. So for our button, put padding 12 pixels by 32 pixels. And guys, feel free to follow along with exactly what I'm doing, but if you want to customize it and make it your own, I'm cool with that too. Transparent buttons, and we'll make all the text on them white. We'll give it a border of 1 pixel solid, the white as well. Let's do the cursor pointer. And I'm going to have a BTN light variation with a background of, let's see, kind of like it's going to be like a little film over it. So let's do RGBA, and we'll do black, but let's give it like a 0.2. And we'll just do a little BTN hover action here. And I'm actually going to use the same thing. So whenever we hover on the button, it's going to look like the BTN light. So let's get a different font in here too. I'm going to go ahead and let's go over here. I'll bring this open. I understand if you're watching a React tutorial, this is probably pretty basic. So feel free to skip ahead. I'll put a little timeline down at the bottom. I had a pretty cool font here. I think I wanted to use this outfit. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to add all these styles in here. Boom, boom. Cool. And I'm just going to import it into my style sheet. You can do that, or put it into your HTML file is fine as well. But that's what I'm going to do there. And we can just add in, let's delete that. And we'll put this in quotations, outfit. There we go. So we can get rid of this. Let's go ahead and start up our development server, kind of see what we're working with here. Let's do this. npm start. And what we should do, let's go ahead and do our React Router DOM to kind of get everything set up properly. And what we want to do there is we'll go into our index.js file. And there's multiple ways to do this, guys. It's just the way I'm doing it. Feel free to do it your own way as far as where we wrap things. I'm going to do browser router here. It auto imported at the top. If not, just type import, then into brackets. Don't forget the brackets. Type in browser router, then from React Router DOM. Sometimes you'll see browser router as router or something like that, but you can just condense it here. So let's go into our app.js file. And in here, we can, what we're going to do is, we actually don't even need this div. You can do fragments, or you can just leave them blank. It's fine as well. You can leave the div, totally fine. And React Router DOM, the version 6, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but essentially we use routes instead of switch statements, or not a statement instead of switch. And so we can do this here. We'll import that at the top. We're going to use routes and route. So routes, then route will be the individual from React Router DOM. Not React Router, but React Router DOM. So in here, this kind of is going to surround all our routes here. And the route is just the individual page, okay? So route, we're going to say path, just the home page here. And we're going to use element equals curly brackets. And then in here, we are putting our component. And we're just going to do that home component that we already made. And don't forget to close that. So let's import our home component. Import home from, and this is our home page here, but it's in our routes folder. So routes / home. There we go. So it should be loading our home component, but nothing's going to show up except for our black background because we have not entered anything. So we can go ahead and I could type something in here, but you won't be able to see it because there's a black background with black text. Let's see if we can go into our index.css file and let's do this. We'll do h1 p. All right. See how this works here. There we go. Okay, so everything is working properly. Let's go ahead and delete that. The first thing I want to do is probably, let's start with our, now that our routes and our React Router DOM is all configured, we can go ahead and build out our navbar. For the navbar, I'm going to start in this components folder here, and let's create our navbar.js. And also let's create our navbar styles.css. Again, many different naming conventions. Some people just take navbar.js and navbar.css. You can do it however you like. So RFCE, I'm going to create my functional component here. And in here, let's create all our let's see here, all our JSX for our navbar. And I'm going to import my styles here. Oh. LES, there we go. And before I forget, I'm just going to import this in my home here. Navbar. If we press enter there, it auto imports at the top once you're done writing it out there. So in here, let's go ahead and start here. We're going to give this a class name of header. And everything's going to be fully responsive. It's going to look really great. So let's do our logo. And for now, I'm just going to make an H1 here and GLX tribal. It's going to be our logo. We could do links. Let's go ahead and do our links actually here as well. So for React Router DOM, we're going to import in curly brackets link from React Router DOM. There it is. So instead of using A tags, we're going to use our link to, and this is for our logo, which is not really an image. We're just using this H1 tag. But whenever we click our logo or that text, I want it to link back to the home page. So there we go. And inside that div, just in there, we're going to do an unordered list with a class name of nav menu. And in here, we're going to have some list items. And inside the list items, we're going to have our links. Link to, that's going to be the home page. Say home, there we go. And I'm just going to copy this down to save some time. Whoops, wrong button. I'm working on a different keyboard than I usually do. I get confused sometimes. So I'm going to do 4 links, the home, and this one is going to be pricing. And we haven't created it yet, but it's going to be a pricing route or page, you could just say. Training. And the last one, let's do contact. Right, and then underneath this unordered list, we're going to do another div. This is going to be our hamburger. Hamburger. And we're going to use FA bars. And this, you guys, is where we're going to use our React icons. So we can import them anywhere up here. Import, and then from React icons. There we go. And what we're going to use FA bars, which is the hamburger. And we're also going to use FA times, which is the little X that we're going to use to close our menu. Now, it's going to fit because we haven't imported it. Let's see. React icons. Okay. Don't forget, after React icons, type in FA. Or it could be many other things depending on what the preset is for your icon here. So FA. So we're going to type in FA, and if it's a different one, you have to do each different line for each one. It's throwing an error because we haven't used the bars yet. And I'm going to go ahead and give this some color. So we're going to do that inline here. Style, double curly brackets. And what we need to do here is we're going to say color. And then this has to go in quotes. And I'm going to make that a white color. Let's see if we can see it. There it is. Okay, perfect. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and then there we can just do size, and I'm going to put it in curly brackets. It's going to be 20, so that should make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Looks great. Well, not great. We need to do some styling. Let's jump into the styling for our nav bar. And maybe I'll pull this over a little bit, so I don't want it to be too small to where you can't see what I'm typing in case you're following along. So let me know in the comments if this gets funky here. So let's start here with our header, and we're going to position fixed with a width of 100%. Don't mind some of these errors while we're doing our styling. I'm going to display flex, justify content using center or space between, something like that. Let's do space between. This is all preference, guys. Just whatever you think looks good. I have some pre-written CSS when I was designing this project, and we're going to give it a Z index of 10, and I'll explain why later. But basically, we want it on top of all of our other content. So go ahead and refresh. Everything's looking great there. And I wonder if we can go back to, let's see if I can add this in here. We have our links the same as well. There we go. Cool. I just went back to our index.css file there and added the A. So I'm going to close some of this here just to clean it up. So everything is positioned correctly here. Let's do what we're going to want to do. Let's do our nav menu. And we want to display that as flex so it lays down horizontally there. And we're going to need to give that some padding. Nav menu, li, padding. Let's give it 0 on the top and bottom, then 1 rem on the left and right. And a nav menu, let's target these. Let's see here. Let's target the, let's see how that looks. I hate how it throws these errors sometimes. Just refresh that, guys. Okay. Gonna copy this how we want it here. Okay. Let's target these links here. We have font size 1.2 rem. Font weight of 500. And a color. Oh, we already did the color just a minute ago. So even though there's not an actual A tag to link, we can still style it all the same. And let's do our hamburger, which we actually want to hide, and then we only want to show it on through our media queries. So I'm going to just go ahead and hide it right here, and we'll add in some of our media queries. So we're going to do at media screen and max width. Whoops. Let's do 1240 here. So pretty large screen. We're going to display our hamburger now. Display block. And our nav menu, let's go ahead and fix our nav menu. We're going to make it fully mobile responsive, so don't worry. Let's give it a position of absolute. And what we're doing now is we're styling our drop down. So if that makes any sense, we're styling our drop down, how it's going to look when we click our hamburger button. We're going to display that as a column. And let's see, justify content went to the center, align items to the center as well. We want to top 0, left. What I want to do right now, I'm going to say left 0, but we are going to change this. Text align. So we're going to hide it off the screen. I've done this in many videos. It's kind of like a go-to navbar, how I create it, usually at least. Like I said, if you want to create your own navbar, that's totally fine. This is kind of somewhat of a beginner thing here, especially if you're learning React. You should probably know quite a bit of this already. Don't worry if you don't, though. That's fine. You gotta start somewhere. Sorry. And we're gonna give it the z index of -1. Sorry. And I'm gonna give it a little background. So basically, it's gonna be a see-through, like a black, but you're gonna be able to see through it just a tad. So 255, 255, and we're gonna do 0.9. So you will be able to see it, just barely. And want to also target a few more things. Our list item. Whoop, let's go up here. Our list item here. I'm going to give it just a little bit of padding. 1 rem on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. And also I'm going to make the links just a little bit bigger. So font size, I'm going to make it 2 rem. So let's refresh this. So that's how it's going to look. Let's see, I'm changing some things. Not 255. That is white. I don't know why I said that. Sorry. That is not black. 0 is all black. Apologies. Misspoke there. Cool. So that's what we want. It's not working now because we haven't done any any state. We're going to use the useState hook. So what we need to do though is, so we said this is going to appear left 0, which it is. But what we want to happen is we want it to be displayed off the screen by 100% here. So it's going to be completely gone. And then we're going to add an active class to where we click our hamburger. It will become active. And what we're going to say is nav menu.active. And whenever we make it active, left is just going to be 0. So let's go ahead and give this some state and make it functional here. So like I said, we're going to be using the useState hook. So we have to import this to the top. Just give it a comma and then some curly brackets. We're going to say useState. And I think that's the only hook we're going to be using in today's tutorial. And we're going to go right in here, right underneath our arrow function. We're going to say const, and this is going to take in two items here. I'm going to say click, set click. It's equal to useState. We're going to give it a default value of false. And we also want a handle click. You can call this what you want. This is kind of a, it's going to be arrow function. This is kind of conventional naming system here. Set click, and we want this to say, basically, we're saying it's not clicked as a default. And that's good for now. We're going to add some other functions where we scroll, the navbar changes colors. But for now, let's go ahead and add in here. We'll do our button first. So our hamburger button. So what we want to do is we're going to add an on click event here. want to run this handle click arrow function that we just created. So in here, I'm just going to start a new line and then I'll copy and paste it. Just probably make it easier. We're going to open some curly brackets. What we're going to say is click. If clicked, we're going to show the FA times is what we're bringing in here. Okay. And otherwise, we're just going to display this one here. Let's copy that in. Cut, copy. And don't forget, I forgot that little opening bracket there. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this over because I want the same size and the color. I want it to be consistent. So there we go. I'll go ahead and pull this over so you can see it. So as you can see, we're saying if clicked, we want to show the FA times button, which is the X. And otherwise, we're going to show just the hamburger menu. Oh, where'd it happen? There it went, sorry. So there you go, that works properly. But it's not showing our menu, and that is because we need to add in our nav menu here. So we remember we did the active class. So I'm just going to highlight that and delete it. I'm going to open up with some curly brackets. And what we're going to say is basically, if clicked, we want to show nav menu and the active class. Otherwise, just the nav menu. And that should be it, guys. So let's click this, and out slides our menu. So now we have a fully responsive nav bar here. We'll probably come back and do some more styling, give it some features, like when we scroll, it's going to change colors. But that's, for now, going to sum up our nav bar. So let's go ahead and do our video hero here. So our video banner. Let's start right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close those, and I'm going to create a new component here. New component, and I'm just going to call this video.js. And while we're at it, let's go and create a video styles.css. All right, so let's go ahead and create our functional component. And we're going to import our video styles CSS. Oh, I need to put a / here. There we go. Perfect. And so what I'm going to do now, I already have a video and some pictures picked out. You can get these from Unsplash or some other websites. I'll put some links down the bottom. But this is what we're going to be using here as our hero image there. We're going to use these on the training tab. And then here is our video. It's not going to load here, but space.mp4. And I'm going to go ahead and import that video here. And I'm just going to say import. I'm just going to call it space video camel case here from, and we're going to go out of this components folder into the assets, and it's called space.mp4. Alrighty. So we're also going to use links in here. So let's import link from React router DOM. And let's get started with our component here. I'll leave it open so we can see. I don't know if you guys like that. If you like being able to see what we're creating as we do it, then let me know. Otherwise, I can make this full screen. So I'm going to give this a class name of hero. And let's go in here. And we're going to do a video tag. And we want it to say autoplay, yes. Autoplay, loop, muted. This doesn't have any sound, I don't think, anyways, but that's okay. Video. And it's going to close that out. And then here, we're going to have our source, src equals. And then just like we do the images in React, open the curly brackets. This is what we called it at the top. I can't see it. Video, space video right here. And close it out. We'll say type video /mp4. And this would be a self-closing tag here. Now that we have the video, let's go just underneath, inside the hero div, but just underneath the video. And we're going to do another div with a class name. I'm just going to say content here. I'm going to give it H1 Galaxy Travel. Not the most creative of names. That's okay. I'm going to say world's first civilian space travel. All right. And then underneath the content div, we're going to make one more. And this is where our buttons are going to be. So we can do the links. Link to, let's do training. We'll do training. You can do whatever you like. We'll give the class name of BTN. And in here, we can say training. I'm going to copy this down. And instead of training, we'll have we'll say launch. That sounds cool. And instead of BTN, we're going to also do the BTN Lite, which we created in our index.css file. Let's just forward this to our contact page. So let's go ahead and we're going to just put this on the home page, remember. And this was video. Press enter and it'll auto import at the top. And there we go. So we're going to have to do quite a bit of CSS mobile queries. So we have this displaying how we like it. But there is the video. Navbar is working properly. And there's some content at the bottom. So that finishes up our all our code here. We do need to do some CSS. So we have an ID of the video, so that's how we're going to select that container there. So let's go ahead and go into our styles here. And I'm just going to create some room somewhere at the top. Let's get started with targeting our video. We're going to give it a position of fixed with a width of 100%. We want a height 100%. Going to take up the whole screen. We need to type object fit cover. And let's give it a z index of -1. So let's now select our hero, height of 100 VH, viewport height, and let's give it a width of 100%. Object fit contain. And let's do content tag here. So hero content, there we go. Let's do text align center, and we just want to put this kind of right smack in the middle of our video there. Margin auto with a width. Got to give it the dimensions, and this will kind of put it in the 40 VH here. Should put it right around the middle somewhere. Now let's do our content. We'll do our H1. Give a font size of 4 rem and color. There we go. And let's do our. We probably just do this here. Font size 1.8 rem. Font weight. Let's do 200. Make it a little bit slim there, and let's make it uppercase. Margin bottom 0.6 rem and color. It's never a good idea to use a lot of pixels. It's always great to use the rem. I go into more detail on another video here. So, whoa, it's looking kind of funny here. Let's go back and see, make sure we have everything selected. All right. What we also want to do All right, so not displaying correctly. Let's go into our video.js. Let's move this down. Cut that. Whoop. Put it down here somewhere. Save that. There we go. You notice when I saved it, it formatted everything. That is using an extension called Prettier, so feel free to grab that. Yeah, so I think that's looking pretty good here. Let's go ahead and put a little padding in between those buttons there, and we can do some media queries. Actually, that looks pretty good there. Let's go ahead and have a look at this, and let's see. Oh, yeah, it looks pretty decent. I don't think we really need to resize anything. Cool. So let's go ahead and I think we're finished up with that. We can do a little bit of the button. Just give it just a tiny bit of padding in there. So let's go down here and we'll say hero btn margin 1 rem, 0.2 rem. Cool. Has a hover effect. Everything looks great. We'll just do a few media queries here just to kind of like shrink the text. Zoom max width of, let's say 640 pixels. I'm just going to shrink this down to 3 rem. And this font size here, let's do 1.4. I think it was 1.8. And let's say margin. I think that looks okay there. We might have to shrink it if you actually do mobile, but I think that looks fine for now. So we did the hero, we did the video. Next, let's go ahead and add the footer, and those are what's going to basically comprise all of our homepage here. So let's go and create another component. Let's minimize that, and in here, sorry, I didn't get the coffee. We're going to do a new file, and it's going to be footer.js. And also a footer styles.css. So in here, RAFCE, generate functional component, and let's go ahead and get our styling. So footer styles.css. Okay, and we're going to use some icons in here in our footer. So let's go and import these. We're going to use FA Facebook. We're going to use FA LinkedIn, FA mail bulk, FA phone, FA search location, and FA Twitter. Now I use all FA, so when we import it, we can just say no slash there. React icons /FA. So from here, kind of go back over here. Let's go ahead and do some coding here. So it's going to class name footer, and we're also going to do a div class name footer container, and another div here with a class name. We'll call it left. We're going to have two sides, left side and the right side. And in here, we're going to have, this is kind of where we're going to have a little section here, a div for the phone, and then also for our email right there. So, and we're going to do the grid system. Right now it's stacked because we're in mobile, but that's how it should look. So we're going to go ahead and say this div is going to give it a class name of location. And in here, we're going to use our FA search location. There we go. And let's give it a size of 20. And we'll go ahead and do style. Remember, we got to do the double quotes, color equals, and then parentheses, or sorry, in the quotes here, double curly brackets, and then do our quotations here. I'm just going to give it a white color. And I'm going to give it a little bit of margin here. And the way we do, or I'll just show you here. So we're going to put a comma. We can do multiple styles in here. Instead of doing margin dash right, when we're in React, we need to do camel case. So margin right, just like that. And then we'll still do our quotes of to rem. There we go. And we do need to make sure we close our icon like so. All right, and don't worry, we won't be able to see it yet. And here I'm going to, inside this div, I'm just going to make another little div here. We don't need a class name, but it's going to say 123 Acme Street. So this is just our, I'm going to put this in a p tag actually. And I'm going to copy that down, but change the text here. Let's make it an H4, a little bolder. And this is going to be in Houston, Texas. Okay, so underneath this location, we're going to do a phone div underneath here. You know what? We don't need this. We need to move this. Let's move that down here. That's right. I'm going to save it. There we go. Because we have our location here. Okay, that looks better. Apologies for that. Our next one, we're going to do a div with the class name. And this is going to be our phone. And let's just have an H4 here with our phone number. And we'll see what we do with our phone number. Do whatever we like. 1-800-123-234. All right. But I want to have our I want to have a icon here, and the icon we're going to use it just inside of this H4 here, and you can probably guess which one we're going to use. FA phone. Might close that off. And instead of typing all this back out, I'm just going to, whoop, hate those pop-ups. I'm just going to copy that right there and just put it in there like so. So it still has our phone number there inside the H4. And underneath the phone, we're going to do the email. So just underneath this div here, we're going to create another one with a class name of email. And let's do the same thing. We're going to do an H4, and we're going to say, I can't remember what I call it, trips at, we'll say galaxy.com. I can't remember what it was. And inside here, we're going to do FA mail bulk is the icon we're going to be using. And again, I still have this copied. I'm going to paste it in there so it's all the same there. So we haven't done any styling yet. It's kind of behind this, behind our videos, which is why we can't see it. And underneath our left div here, right here, we're going to do another div with a class name. I say right. This is the right side or bottom if we're looking at mobile. So I'm just going to say about company. There we go. And then I'm going to do a p tag in here. And you can say whatever you like. I'm just going to do some copy over some lorem ipsum text here that I already have defined. And then underneath this p tag here, we want it above inside the right div. I'm going to make one more. And let's give this a class name of social. And this is where we're going to have our social icons. So we're going to have our FA Facebook. We're going to have FA Twitter. And also our LinkedIn. All right. And let's go ahead and I'm going to copy these. We might change it just a little bit, but this will save some typing. So let's copy that down. Whoa. Oh, there we go. And for the size, Might make them a little bit bigger. I'm going to change it to 30. And we'll do colors, same. We want white, but I'm going to give margin right just 1 instead. All right, so you guys, I'm going to save that and formats. So I think that's looking really great. Let's go ahead and do the styling for our footer so we can actually see what we're doing. Some room. And real quick, might as well go ahead and bring this in. Footer, should auto import, there it is. So let's select our footer div here, and we're going to give it a width of 100%. Give it some padding, 6 rem top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. We want a background color, so we want to be able to see out in this design. I made it to where we can still see the video in the background. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to give it RGBA 000, which is the black, and let's do 0.8. So we'll be able to see through it just a little bit here. And we did the footer container, I think. Let me double check. Footer container. Let's do a max width. I'm gonna kind of give it 1140. I want the margin to be auto. We're gonna use a grid template columns. We're gonna do basically 2, so we can just type in repeat, open our parentheses here, 2 1FR, and we're gonna give it a little grid gap of 40 pixels. Okay, and what we're gonna do next is target this left side. Give it a height of 100%, max width of 100%, and here I'm going to display this as flex, just these little items here, our location, email, and stuff like that. Column, and we'll give it a little bit of padding, 1 rem. Then let's go ahead and do our right side here. No, I'm just going to copy all this down here. Copy that, make it easy. And I'm going to add 1 more margin auto on this right side here. Let's see. Go ahead and refresh that. So there it is. It's starting to come together a little bit. We still need to make some changes. Oh, we use H4s instead of the H1s. That's why the text is black. So if we want, we can just go in here. Just keep it all in line here. H4, and that should fix that there. There we go. I'm not sure if I use any other H tags in this tutorial. So if we did, we can just go back and add them. So under the right side, I do want to target this H4 and give it font size of 1.2 rem, just to make it a little bit bigger. And also, let's do 1.4 for the header. And we'll give it a padding, 1 rem on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. And we'll do the same for our P tag. 1.2 rem and padding 1 rem. So now everything's looking a little bit better. We still need to, we're going to do some media queries here as well. But I just want to finish up a couple things here. So footer, location, P tag, and we're going to do padding. Let's do padding bottom only. And also, I think just the location we need to target. There we go. And let's see how this is looking. For our location. Probably want to do padding top 0. I think it has a little bit there. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And we only did the flex here because it has 2 lines. So these other ones will be just fine when we give it some more room. let's do just a couple of media queries. We'll do a max width of 640 pixels. And let's do our, target our footer container. And this is where we're going to change our grid template columns to just one fraction. And I'm going to do this margin auto. There we go. All right, so I think that's good enough for now for our footer. As you can see, I'm not sure how well you can tell on the video, but you can see our video kind of here playing in the background, just like a little overlay. So I think that's pretty cool. So that basically concludes the first part here. Where we can go next is, let's work on our first tab here, which would be pricing. So it is going to be our pricing route, or you could say our pricing page, either way. So for that, let's go ahead and get started here. There we go. Inside our route, pricing.js, and we're going to generate a functional component here. And in here, we want to do our navbar, because remember, this is going to be our page, our navbar, and then we're going to have our footer, auto import. Let's go ahead and import our navbar. If it doesn't auto import, just make sure you type it in so you don't get any errors. And components, navbar, there you go. So let's go ahead and go into our home component. Navbar. Okay. And I'm going to give this a route. Route path. And this is going to be to the pricing. And the element we're going to show is pricing auto import. There we go. And let's not forget to close that. There we go. Should have any errors. And let's add in /pricing so we can see our pricing page. So that looks correct because we just have our navbar and our footer. And what we want to add is on our pricing page here. What we want to add is a little hero banner here. And we're going to use props to pass in some data. And then we also have these cards that display nicely on mobile devices. Just real basic cards. So let's go ahead and do our image. So what we're going to do, how we're going to do that, like I said, we're going to have the same image on multiple different pages, and it's going to be the same component, but we're just going to be passing in some different data. So let's go ahead and create this component, and it's going to be called hero image.js, and we're going to do some styling for it as well. So hero image styles.css. All right, so we're going to create a class component. So we're using some passing in some props. So we can just type. We've been typing RAFCE. What we can type now is RCE. That's going to create a class component and export it at the bottom here. So very simple. Let's go ahead and import our style sheet. All right. And class components very similar to functional components. Just we say export class, or you don't even have to say export here, it can just say class. And we do have to do the little render function here and then close that in a curly bracket. But let's go ahead and give this a class name of hero-img. And in here, we do want another div with a class name heading. There we go. Just clean this up some. And what we're going to do, we're going to type in, let's see, h1 and say this dot props dot heading. There we go. And we're going to do a p tag. So with props, we can kind of pass in data. So it's really cool. It's one of the main benefits of using React. You can pass in data for reusable components. So that's all we're doing there. We do need to give it some styling. Let's go ahead and do that. So we want this image here to take up the full screen, and I'm going to give it kind of just a little bit of an overlay because I didn't like what it was looking like. Let's do 0.3. There we go. I don't think we need to do any of this. Let's give it a height of 50 viewport heights with a width of 100%. And we want to give the position of relative because we're going to be using z-index down here. So hero-image, do before, and this is kind of how we're going to do our overlay here. Sorry. I wanted to say content. Blake quotations there. So let's do our background, and it is going to be URL, and what we're going to be using is our hero image right there. So what we're going to say is, make sure you put this in quotations. We're going to say outside this directory, we're going to go to assets and then hero image right there. And I'm going to add in just a few things here. You can do this on a different line or the same line. This is just kind of a shortcut. We want no repeat, center, cover. That should be great there. And let's do a height of 100%, width of 100%. And we want this position to be absolute. The top 0, left 0, and a z-index. We'll say -1 for this one. I go back over here so we kind of see what we're doing. We haven't brought it in yet, and that's okay. Let's go ahead and finish up some of these styling. Let's say hero image, heading, width 100%. We're going to display vertically. So we're going to give it a column and center everything here. There we go. And let's do our heading here. So make it font size 2.4. We're going to do rem. And select our p tags with a font size 1.4 rem. Okay. And let's just go and give it a little media query here. Just one small one. We'll do the same, 640 pixels. Hero image, and we'll target our H1. Font size 2 rem instead of 2.4. Just a small little change. But we can't see it because we haven't imported it yet. And this is our image.js. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into our pricing. And let's import this. We said hero image, enter for the auto import, and close it off. But like I said, we're using props in here. Right there. Can't resolve hero image styles. Why not? Did I spell that correctly? Oh, here we go. Yeah, of course I misspelled it here. So STY. There we go. All right. We go ahead and close that. Just refresh. So there's our image. Looks great. But what we want to do is pass in this data. So we're using props, and all we have to do in the class space component that we already designed is put our opening brackets are here and just say this.props.heading or whatever you'd like to say. That's just what I'm going to use. And then when we go back to our pricing tag here, inside this component, and this is where you create your word, we used heading. And I'm just going to pass in, I'm going to make it all capitalized here, pricing. Okay, so there it is. And then the next one we used was text. I'm going to say, choose your trip. There we go. So that should pass in there like so. So that's how we pass in some props. So Let's move on and do our card component here. So close this. We're going to create a pricing.js, and we have our pricing.js route or page, but this is going to be our component. So let's generate our functional component here, and then we can go ahead and do our pricing component. We also be wise pricing styles.css. Make sure I spelled that correctly this time. And make sure you're working in your component here, not your route. There we go. And in here, let's go ahead and do some class names. So since these are cards, it's going to be a little bit of JSX here and some CSS. Nothing too crazy. I'm going to say card container here. I'm going to keep it consistent how I've been doing this project. Card container and div class name of card. And we'll say H3. We'll say this is the basic. There we go. And under here, we get a span class name bar. And let's do some p tags here. We're going to give this one a class name though. Most of them probably will not. It's going to be the currency now. Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. And let's do three days. All the basics. I'm going to copy this down. Save some time. And we're going to say views. I'm just adding in some data just so it's not blank. You can type in whatever you'd like here. It doesn't matter. We'll say private quarters. Let's do we're gonna let's just do it. Okay, so link to, and I'm just gonna say contact. Okay, well, it's gonna do a tag, but that's fine here. Last name btn, and say book, like book your trip. So let's go ahead and we can actually just copy this down, this card here. There we go. And this is another chance where you could use, create another component as well. So it kind of just depends how deep you want to do it. Executive. And I'm going to keep all this data the same just for the sake of the saving time. So let's just do some styling real quick. It's going to style our cards. And I guess we can go ahead and bring it in. This is our route folder here. So let's go ahead and just bring it in so we can see what we're doing. Should auto import. Sometimes it doesn't. I may have been moving too fast. And remember, this is going outside to the components. And it's going to the pricing tab there. All right. What? Oh, it's not liking something here. I may have. I see. I don't think it's liking our pricing in here. Okay. So this is what it's not liking right here. So we can just say pricing cards. And that should fix that issue there. Cool. So that's fixed. Of course, we got another one here. We used a link. We didn't import it. So let's just do this. Import our link from React.router.dom, and that should clear all that up. Cool. So now we're looking good. Let's go ahead and do our styling. We have it pulled in. All right. Add some room here. And we'll select our pricing. I'll do a width of 100%, padding of 6 rem on top and bottom, 1 rem on the left and right. And let's do a background color of our cards here, black. Let's target our container here. Max width of 1140 pixels. Put everything in the middle. Display this as a grid. Grid gap. It says, okay, obsolete, don't use it. Well, guess what? We're going to use it. Still works. Grid template columns. And we're going to do 3 equal ones. So 3 1 fractions. Okay, so card container. Now we're going to select our card. And let's give it a border of 1 pixel, solid, and I can give it a, we don't want that. I'm going to do this. Basically, it's like an off-white. We'll see how this looks. We can come back, not 3. We can come back and change it if we like. So let's just style a little bit more of our cards here. Text align in center. Give it some everything some padding. And when we hover over it, I just want to create just a little. It's still going to be dark, just kind of a little bit lighter of a black. Let's target our H3 in here, the font size of 1.4 rem, and some padding of 1 rem. And then let's style that span, which is a bar. So card, and we just named it bar. Let's do border bottom, 1 pixel, solid. And let's do that same color. What do we do? E, yes. We'll give it a width of just 10%. Margin 1.5 rem, then auto on the left and right, and display block. Okay, so I'm going to style just a few more things here. Our Bitcoin, snap. There we go. Cool. So still needs some more styling, but it is displaying correctly thus far. So under the bar, let's do card, selecting our Bitcoin here. And we want a font size of 4 rem. Oops. And I think, so let's do font weight of 600 and padding 1 rem. Cool. It's quite large right now. We haven't done any mobile queries, media queries, so that's okay. Pricing P. Let's do color, we'll do that E again. Okay. Just doing a little bit of extra styling on our buttons here. Cool. And let's do, cool. I think that looks good there. Let's do a little media query. Because it looks terrible the way it is with everything crunched up like that. And we definitely don't want it to display like that. So let's just target our card container here, where we did our grid. And we're going to give it a max width of 90%. Margin auto. And it's already displaying grid. What we want is grid template columns instead of the 3. We just want to do 1. Let's see how that looks there. There we go. Yeah, make sure you refresh. Cool. Looks good. And notice our header here. We said we're going to go back and change the color whenever we scroll. You don't have to do that. It's not necessary. I can show you how to do that if you want. But for now, I'm just going to skip that part. So that is our pricing container here, our pricing route. It has our image here that we pass in some props, our pricing cards, and make sure it looks okay when we pull this thing out to a wider screen. And yes, looks great. So let's do our training route next. I'm going to drop that back down, and I'm going to close some of these. So for our training route, what we're going to do is basically the same thing for our that we did on our pricing tab here. And so essentially it's going to be the same. We're going to be passing in our props. So let's go ahead and create that route. So it's going to be training.js, refce for our functional component here. And let's bring in our bar. There we go. And so what we can do right now is I'm going to go into our app.js, and I'm just going to copy this down and change this pricing to training. Then here, training, auto import it at the top. So now we can go here and don't mind that error, and kind of see what we're working with here. So import navbar, because it did not auto import. Whoops. And we're going to want to go outside that directory into the components and grab the navbar. So that should clear up any errors. So there we go. We're on our training tab. All we have is our navbar. So what we're going to do next, we can type in, bring in our, do our hero image. And remember, press enter, auto import. That should leave our image there. And let's pass in our props. So remember, it's going to be heading. And then whatever we like to pass in, I'm going to pass in training. And then for our text, again, whatever you want to say, I'm going to say pre-flight and in-flight training. There we go. And that should bring everything in there. And go into the next line here. We can go ahead and add our footer, import that, and we should have our footer down here. Great. So what we're going to do on our training, we're just going to add in a couple images. The same, we're going to use grid, just a little box here on the left, and then a box here on the right. That's going to collapse down, and it's basically just a couple images layered on top of each other. Let's go ahead and do that now. So, and this is a component. That was a component that we just showed you. I just call it a training component. So let's go here and create our component here. Training.js. And let's also do training styles.css. You always want to make sure you're spelling things correctly, guys. Like, I run into errors all the time just from typing too quick and misspelling things, and it's just such a headache. But unavoidable at a lot of times. So training styles.css. And what we can do now is what we're going to want to do. We're bringing in a couple pictures. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to use the moon and the pod right there. So let's go ahead and import. I'm going to say pod from assets. And this one is pod.jpg. I'm going to copy this down, and we're going to use, I'm going to call this moon. And it's in the same location, only called moon. And you'll be able to download all these images from my GitHub. I'll make that available in the description below. Or if you would like, you can just select your own pictures through like Unsplash or Pexels or anywhere like that. So, and we're going to use the, there's going to be a button in here. So we want to use a React Router DOM. So let's import our link here at the top. React Router DOM. Then let's start with some styling. So I'm going to give this a class name, training. And then under here, like I said, we have two sides. And I often kind of name it this way. I'm just going to say training left, or I could just say left here. I'll just say left. And in here, we're going to have an H1. It says training. And then under under here, it just has some text. And I'm just going to copy in some text. I just basically type some random stuff in here just to give it some content. There we go. You can type in whatever you'd like. And under that, we're going to get our link to, and we can just say, going to the contact page. And we're going to say a button in here with a class name of BTN. It's going to say contact. Cool. So we have to give some styling, so we can't see anything right now. I'm not sure if we brought it in yet. We did not. Let's go ahead and do that now. Well, so right here, not pricing, we're doing training. And again, we ran into that error last time, so I'm just going to call this training section. Doesn't really matter what you call it, as long as when you import it at the top, we can say training section. We go outside to components, and there we go. That should work properly. There we go. So working properly. We haven't brought in any of our pictures or done any of our styling. So let's do that right now. We'll do our right side here. And we have a div with the class name of image container. We'll give this a div and a class name. Let's say image stack. And then let's give it a top. And let's bring in our image here. So image, source, and let's bring in our moon first here. And I'm going to give it a class name, image1. And I'm going to give it an alt tag. You don't have to give it an alt tag, but these empty quotes here. React likes to throw some errors your way. They will still work, but you'll get a couple errors there. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this down. And I'm going to change this to bottom. And this is just referring to the two pictures being layered on top of each other. This will be image 2, and it's going to be pod. So let's go ahead and do some of our styling. Yeah, so everything looks good. Let's do some styling. Here's our pictures. Doesn't look bad like that, actually. It looks kind of cool. Of course, if we go to widescreen, it's kind of jacked up. So let's go ahead and do some styling here. Give it some space. So training, we want a width of 100%. We give it a margin. We'll do 3 rem, top and bottom, 0 left and right. And display as grid. And 2 columns is what we want. We'll change this, our media query, down to 1. And we'll say on the left and right. Let's give it a max width. We'll give it a max width of 600 pixels. We'll have to come back and do our media queries here as well. We'll give it this p tag. We'll select the p tag. I'm going to give that some margin. 1.2 rem and 0 on the sides. Let's give this a width of 100% here, and we'll do our image containers. So let's do right. So here is how this might get just a little confusing here. So basically, we're going to line our images up, and we're using the grid system, so which is broken down into 12 fractions, displayed horizontally across the page. Give that position of relative and line item center. And this is how we're going to stack our images. I should probably go ahead and I'm just gonna do this, right? Image 1, we want a max width of, I'm gonna say 60%. I'm gonna give it a little border just because it's a black background and the images are pretty dark. So I'm just gonna give it a very light background color. And let's see there. We can actually just delete that because I think our images are really gonna have the same styling themselves. So instead of just image 1 and image 2, I'm just gonna delete that. Just let them both be named images. So refresh. There, okay, it's starting to look a little better, you know, kind of. What we're going to want to do is stack our images. So we want do that down here. We're going to say right, and then we had our top. Let's do grid column 1, span 8, grid row 1, padding top, we'll do 20%, and the Z index, this is how we're going to layer them here. So remember, we're doing the position relative up top, and we're going to do right bottom, grid column 4, that's 1. Let's say grid row 1 and Z index. We want this one to be 5. So there we go. So that's looking better. We do need to add in some media queries. Let's have a look when we're at a widescreen. So I think that's looking pretty great right there. That's essentially what we wanted exactly. When we drop it down to smaller pixels, we do want them to stack. So let's go ahead and add in our media queries there. We'll do a basically anything below 1140. Let's stack that. So grid template columns, we're going to do that right here with just one fraction. And let's make the images a little bit bigger. Well, that doesn't look bad. I think those are at 60%. Let's see. Or you know what, here, we'll target the image, and let's see what the max width of 80%. Oh, same thing still, let's see. We give it a class name, that's what it was. Boom, okay, yeah, that's better, cool. So there you have it, you guys. We've done the home, we've done the pricing, we've done the training. That leaves us with the contact section, or the contact route, which is the page, right? So let's go ahead and do our contact page and we're gonna have a form in there. So let's go ahead and create that. So we can close the assets folder. So in here, we're gonna have a form.js, also a form styles.css. Kind of did that backwards here, because in our route, we're going to have a contact.js. And let's do our functional component here. And in here, this is our route, this is our page. Let's import our navbar. And then we're also going to we can do our footer. Actually, let's do our hero image that we passed in our props. So, and actually I'm going to go to our, close some of these out, declutter a bit, training anymore. In our app, before we move on, let's go ahead and create another route, another path. And this is going to be contact. And we want to bring in our contact There we go, route from the top. So here we are. Let's see if it is working. Contact. There we go. Okay, perfect. Let's bring in some props, and we did heading. And we're just going to say, make it all caps. Contact. There we go. And let's say contact. Travel. We'll do it like this. Cool. And then next we're going to have our form and then a footer. But let's do the footer because we have not done our form yet. I guess we create it. Let's go ahead and import it. Form. There we go. Let's import that at the top. Cool. Oh, not that. Okay, cool. Oh, throwing some errors here. That's okay, because it's empty here. So let's generate our functional component. That should remove the error and just leave it blank. So yes, it's blank. This is where our form is going to go. Back here to our demonstration, we're going to code this form right here. So back here, we already passed in our props. And what we're going to do now is just enter in a little bit of information for our form. Let's not forget to import our form styles. CSS. There we go. And from there, we can go ahead and work on our form. So we're going to give it a class name of form. There we go. Then in here, we're going to have a form. And there's not going to be any submitting or anything like that in this video. So this is just keeping it very, very basic, literally just for cosmetics here. So label, and then we'll have, whoops, undo, label, and we'll have an input. We'll say type text. Okay. Now I'm going to copy these down. We're going to have a name, email, subject, details, and let's see here. Oh, let me just delete all that altogether. Email, and this type. We don't have to do this. You can leave it however you'd like, but just for the sake of doing it. Subject, and it's going to be a text as well. And then details. And for the details, instead of an input, actually going to do a text area so people can submit a little bit of a message. And we're going to need to give it 6 rows with a placeholder. Whoop. Placeholder. We'll say type a short message here. Okay. And let's just close that off. There we go. And then we'll add a button with the class name btn. And that's just going to say submit. So there it is. Let's give it some styling here. All right. And what we're going to start off with is, let's start with form. So display flex. We'll do flex direction column. We could have used like Bootstrap or something with this. Would have been really great, but I'm not a huge fan of the some of the CSS libraries. I just like to do everything myself. It is a little bit more time consuming, but I feel like it's just, I don't know, I enjoy it. Kind of watching what you're creating. So let's do our input and our text area. We'll kind of lump these in to one another. Margin bottom, 1 rem. We'll give it some padding. Let's do 10 pixels, 18 pixels on left and right. And I'm going to give this, what do we use, outfit. Then I always like to give a second option on fonts, just in case the browser doesn't support it. You don't want to run into any problems like that. And I'm going to do RGBA. We're going to give this kind of a, that's our white there, 0.1, just a little bit of an overlay. Use a border color, and we're going to do the same thing. There we go. And there we go. Little color in there. And what I'm going to do next is, that might be it here. Let's go ahead and refresh that. Cool, yeah, so it's looking good. Our label here, we can, I really don't feel like going back to our index.css file, so I'm going to say label. We could just do, let's do this e-color so we can actually see everything. Cool. Oh, our text area here is not showing up for some reason. Let's have a look at that. Nope, nowhere to be found. So let's go back to our form here and see what's going on. So text, oh, there it is. Text area. Cool. So that fixed that there. All right, so yeah, I think that was the last little change there. Let's make sure all our links are working properly. I'm going to drag this open. So we scroll down, we see our footer here, and that should go to the contact. You see at the bottom left of the screen, contact, and this one on the bottom left, you can see goes to training. So that is correct. Let's go to pricing. Everything is looking really great. Our props are passing in the data that we designated. Our contact, I think that's about perfect. One thing, guys, if you want to go ahead and do this background we spoke about in the beginning of the video of our navbar, how it goes over some of the content, and that's okay. But say we wanted to have this background turn to like a black or dark overlay as we scroll, so it's just a little bit easier to read. Let's go ahead and do that right now. I'll show you how to do that, and we can close these out. What we're going to do is go into our navbar. Where are we? There we are. Our navbar, and then also our navbar styles. And we're going to use state to basically use state to change the color of our navbar. So what we're going to do right up here under where we did our original use state here for our clicks, we're going to say const. I'm going to say color, and you can, this can be whatever you like. So I'm going to say set color, and then here we have to say use state. I'm going to set it to false as a default value here. And just under there, we're going to have a function here. I'm going to call it change color. It's going to be our function. I'm going to make it an arrow function. And in here, we're going to say if window.scroll y, which is the vertical axis, and we're going to say is greater than or equal to, I'm going to say 100 pixels here. We're going to set color to true. So right here, sorry, all these pop-ups. We're setting the color to true. We're going to set that to true. Else, we're just going to leave it at as false. Okay. So, and then we need to add an event listener down here. So for our scrolling, so window.add event listener, and that event listener is going to be scroll. And on scroll, we want to run the function change color that we did right here. Easy enough. But we need to, it's not going to work because we need to add in a class. So what I'm going to add in here, and you can put it wherever you'd like. I'm just going to put it kind of right here at the top, just below this header here. So I'm going to say header-bg. Okay. Now let's give it a background color. Background color of RGBA. Again, I don't want it to be solid black. I want it to be, let's do 0.85 there. Got an extra parentheses there. And we'll give it a nice little transition. Not transform. Transition of 0.5 seconds. So back in our navbar, just kind of like we did here with our nav menu, we're going to do the exact same thing. So we can select that. I'm just going to delete it and start from scratch. What we're going to say is color. So we want the color of the background, or that's what we called our state here. So we're either going to show header. This is when we scroll. Header BG. Otherwise, it's just going to display the header when we have not scrolled. So let's go ahead and refresh that. And there we go. Perfect. So I already had it since we were scrolled down. So right now we are at the top of the page and it looks as normal. And as we scroll down 100 pixels, it changes to the black. So, and this looks a lot better if we go over our pricing tags. Now you can actually see it and then all the white doesn't kind of get washed out. So same with the trading. All right, you guys, I think that finishes up our tutorial here. We learned how to use React Router DOM version 6 here for our different pages or routes. We also used a class-based component to pass in some props here, just some dynamic data that we can reuse in this component here. So if you liked the video, if you feel like you got something out of it, if you learned something, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. I'm going to be putting out some more content just like this in React in the near future, and possibly some other technologies as well. Also, if you have any requests or any topics or information that you would like covered, please put those down in the description. I'll be happy to get to those. Thanks for watching, you guys. I will see you on the next one.